There are going to be times in your life where different slices of that pie are going to need more of your time, more of your effort, more of your attention. And so that was really liberating for me. And then I think as I've, grown in my career, I've also learned that if you aren't contributing to those meaningful sources of energy, such as purpose, mission, whether it's your health, getting enough sleep, if you're not caretaking in those areas as well, you won't have that energy to do what you do every day and be there for your people.
When I'm thinking about, you mentioned authenticity, that it's really hard to manufacture consistency. If we don't have clarity around who we are and how we're showing up, then being consistent is impossible because there's not a framework there from which you kind of originate. Hello, welcome everyone to Inner Work. I'm so honored to have Kellie Richter, the Chief Operating Officer of First Command right here in Fort Worth, Texas, actually across the street from my office building here in Fort Worth. And Kellie leads technology, experience design, digital solutions, data, service, operations, kind of the whole world, the whole landscape. And her role is to translate strategy, love this, into real results that deliver value to clients and primarily military families and the workforce that serves them. Thank you so much, Kellie, for being with us here on Inner Work.
So glad to be with you, MaryAnn. It's a pleasure.
Yay. So you've been with First Command since 2016, is that right?
That's correct. End of 2016, coming up on 10 years this fall.
2016 seems like a couple years ago.
I don't know where that time goes. Of course, there's the COVID time warp in between, right?
So true. So
Yes.
true. That's right. And you came to First Command as CMO. Is that Chief Marketing Officer?
Chief Marketing Officer.
Yeah.
I started out as Chief Marketing Officer to really help First Command connect its brand with its mission. And it's been a great ride ever since.
That's amazing. What does your role at First Command look like day in, day out today?
Yeah, so as Chief Operating Officer, I actually recently stepped into this, relatively recently. It's just been a year since stepping into the role of Chief Operating Officer.
Congrats.
And historically coming into this role after 30 years in the industry of financial services, and primarily in a marketing and product development and delivery capacity.
Yeah.
And so what was really interesting for me to step into this role is how do I connect that background to an operations leadership role?
Yeah.
And so that was a big shift for me. And but the thing I had that was making that connection is everybody sort of owns the brand and owns the client experience, whether you are on the front side directly engaging with our clients, our military families, or you're behind the scenes. You are connected to delivering that value for our clients.
That's absolutely true. We think of it as something that's isolated, like somebody's going to get a survey but it's every moment. And that's the internal client experience too, right?
It's absolutely the internal client experience. And when I stepped into this role, I think what folks told me is they were really excited to have me in this role. Yeah. I think I'm known as a consistent leader and someone they can count on to be very authentic. But there might have been others who said, what does she really know about operations in this space? And I found that in having those conversations, I said, it was really funny. I took a moment to do a little chat GPT on the role of a chief operating officer. And the definition it came back, I asked for it. Of course, it partly was due to my prompt of asking for something very brief and something perhaps a little humorous or authentic that people could connect with.
Yeah.
And it said the chief operating officer is like duct tape. It's someone who holds everything together while pretending everything's going according to plan.
That's so good. And does it on a budget, I would add.
Does it on a budget, right? Exactly. Pretty much does it all in some way, a jack of all trades. But what I also said to folks to really be authentic is what I'm truly excited about in my role as Chief Operating Officer is bringing that authentic brand experience to the operations role.
Yeah.
Everybody owns that client experience. And I shared with my team, my new team as of a year ago, that, brand is really who we say we are. And reputation is what others say about us based on the experience they have with you and with your organization. And our goal is to make sure those two things are really tightly linked.
Yeah.
Because if the experience is disconnected from who you say you are, you break trust, you lose credibility. And so helping people make that connection to what we do in operations, I think was a great way for me to be relevant and relate to my new team.
It's interesting the way that you're describing this, because I often have people say, because we work on culture with organizations, and we've started talking about it more as people and performance rather than using the word culture, because people don't understand necessarily what that means. And I'm seeing this link as you describe it, where who better to lead operations than someone with a marketing background? Because there is operations in marketing, but also you're speaking to the experience of the work. And that reminds me of the link with culture and with operations too. It's how the work gets done. It's the spirit and the energy and the experience.
100%. Yes. And helping people understand their role, focusing on a client, and our client, we call it client centricity, and delivering great experience doesn't mean sacrificing the experience of our own people.
Right. Yeah.
You have to have that purpose-driven support. People have to feel empowered and equipped to deliver their best services. And that connection to investing in our people means that we are best positioned to help deliver what our clients need.
That's absolutely right. And I know you've said that success is really not defined by, for you, what you achieve, but by mission impact. What does that mean?
Yeah. Early in my career, I really felt like what was needed from me was my hardest, best work. And I was very achievement oriented, get the thing done, achieve the next goal, attain the next level. And, that hard work, I think, is, part of how I was raised in the upper Midwest with a family of educators, and hard work equals great work. And so achievement was really how I felt fulfillment early in my career. But really what I learned over time, and with, quite frankly, more experience, is that's a fast track to burnout. Really connecting more with, doesn't mean you're not working hard. You are, but when you're working with purpose and a connection to a mission, and at First Command, we have such a compelling mission of coaching those who serve in their pursuit of financial security, that people come to First Command for that mission, and they stay for that mission. And helping people connect to what they do, including myself as in a leadership role, to delivering that mission and purpose, gives that hard work meaning. So that's really the difference we see, and I've experienced from achievement. Of course, we achieve, but to be more mission and purpose driven.
You're speaking to the experience I have with so many of the executives that I coach that they come to coaching, or they come to leadership development from burnouts, that they're broken. And that shit, I feel like, meaning, purpose, you mentioned these words that are so profound, that those mission, those are sustainable energy sources. And thank goodness we had this early experience of being focused and driven and achievement oriented, because look what it did, right? It's the ultimate case of what got us here. And the success that we created couldn't have happened without that. And we couldn't derive meaning from an experience we hadn't had. But now we have this crash, which can come through sickness, burnout, whatever it is, life experience. And it's okay. So my energy has got to come from somewhere else other than my body. It's got to be more about the rest of the world, the experience, the impact, the mission impact, to use your language. That's the profound thing that we get to shift into, I think, as we have, to your point, the experience of life around what really matters.
Yeah, MaryAnn, early in my career, I was fortunate to have a really wonderful mentor in my life, chief marketing officer at a health organization up in
Yeah.
Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is where I'm from. And he shared with me that, I was at a stage in my career where I had been promoted a couple of times. So consider me in a middle management role at the time, and that continued hard work and kind of getting close to burnout. And in fact, I had just had my second child after beginning, or while I was beginning this mentoring relationship. I was struggling with this kind of concept of work-life balance. And he said, it's interesting. He said, it's kind of a fallacy, this
Yes, it is.
balance concept. He suggested kind of taking a pie chart and putting slices of the pie of things that are important, whether it's, your spiritual life, your personal health,
Yeah.
your family, your career, all of those things that are important to you in your life. And he said, oftentimes people think that, it's really the whole person when all of those slices of the pie are equal.
Yeah.
And he said, that's impossible.
Mhm.
And there are going to be times in your life where different slices of that pie are going to need more of your time, more of your effort, more of your attention. And that simple concept for me was really liberating, and being able to really understand that at some points in my career I need to spend more time on my family life, my personal life, before I can actually start to pour into my role at whatever job I'm serving in at the time.
Yeah.
And so that was really liberating for me. And then I think as I've grown in my career, I've also learned that if you aren't contributing to those meaningful sources of energy, such as purpose, mission, whether it's your health, getting enough sleep, if you're
Yes.
not caretaking in those areas as well, you won't have that energy to do what you do every day and be there for your people.
Absolutely. And I don't know if this has been part of your journey too, but I think the being a performer, being an achiever, the early years were about whipping myself into shape, doing things I didn't want to do. It was this very self-critical perspective.
Yeah.
And now growing older and tapping into sustainable energy, one of those things is self-appreciation.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
I want my kids to have that younger.
Yes. Yes.
Then I don't know if it would prevent burnout for more people or if that's just a part of the path is but I think, and maybe that's being involved in sports early on. It's like, it's got to be punishing.
Yeah.
It's got to be hard for it to be
Gotta be a
worthwhile.
challenge.
Right?
Right. And you want to coach it. It's something which is really part of our culture here at First Command, but that word coach is so meaningful. You want to coach others, you want to coach yourself. And it's really about being there for them in those times of transition, being there for yourself in those times of transition, helping coach that behavior change. And some of that is the coach and helping people learn and experience some of those things on their own. And that's why, it feels so closely connected to our mission at First Command, and then my own personal values around education and coaching.
Tell us more about that. You've mentioned moving from telling to coaching. What's that transition like?
Yeah, I mean, it's other focused. In other words, you talk about the pressure you put on yourself, and part of that, especially early in your career, might be very driven by, hey, I hope my boss or my colleagues or others I work with are viewing me in a certain light. It starts to kind of now take that out of a view of yourself and really about others and understanding their needs. Early in my career, I actually had a role where I was in contract negotiations. And one of the really great skills I learned in that experience was you've got to understand what is important to the person on the other side of the table. In order for you to get what you need and want, you're going to need to understand what's important to them.
Yeah.
And when they know that you care about what's important to them, that is when they're going to be receptive to your message. That is when you're going to be able to have a bigger impact in coaching them and supporting them on their path to getting to where they need to go.
Wow. Where have you seen that really effective in your organization now, maybe in what you're offering and how you're training people to coach?
Yeah, so this is again, I think where my kind of background in marketing and brand comes into play, and understanding and helping educate our team here internally that yes, we have financial advisors who coach our military families and clients, but everybody here is a coach. Everybody has a role to coach. They have a role in coaching their team. They have a role in coaching themselves. And whether it's a person coaching our clients, or we're working on an experience that delivers that coaching experience, could be our digital client portal or the products that we offer our clients. They have to be oriented to helping coach our clients to financial security.
Yeah.
And so helping people see what their role is in that coaching process. It may be a little bit one more or two more steps removed from that direct client engagement, but even coaching your own people to help them be more effective, get where they need to go in their careers, deliver value to our clients is still part of coaching and part of our mission.
And that's mission impact.
That's mission
right?
impact.
The more
Absolutely.
that we can help our teams bring their full selves, bring their confidence, bring their unique skill set, the bigger the mission impact is going to be.
100%. Yeah. And we actually look at all the data on our Glassdoor reviews and the reviews that folks leave for us on Google and Yelp and other sources. And what's very common is we attract clients to the mission. We attract our people to the mission. And the reason we keep and retain our people and our clients is all about the mission. People connect to it. And I think it's that purpose and the role that they're serving and who we're serving is making that connection for people is very fulfilling.
That's amazing. You mentioned the word security earlier as you were talking about wanting to bring financial security to people from the armed services. And that's profound in a lot of ways, but they're bringing security to us.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? They're the ones, serving all of us. And so it's a privilege for us to serve them and that security connection for sure. And even people, when you feel secure, when you feel safe, you have options and you can start to explore what's next in your lives. And one of the things we know about our clients is that they didn't necessarily get into the military to become wealthy, but really helping coach them step by step, they can actually achieve that security because they're all caring for all of us at the same time.
Man, they deserve it. If anybody does.
Yes,
to sacrifice so much. And it's not just the service person, it's the whole family.
It's the whole family. It's interesting you mentioned that because military spouses are really resilient, but they always are recognized for, yes, one person serves, the whole family serves. At the end of the day, a lot of sacrifice involved in serving the military.
There sure is. One of the things that you, I think, created, and was this in your role at First Command, was the 3 C's?
Yeah, so it's actually a fundamental concept of what I would say is clarity, consistency, and control. And really what you're talking about there in a brand context is how are you clear about who you are, either as a person or as an organization for the person or the client that you're trying to serve.
Yeah.
You have to be very clear. The other piece is consistency, and that goes back to this idea of what people actually experience versus what you say is what your brand ultimately is. And you do want those things tightly linked. So I have found that the only way to be as a leader and even as someone who leads others in delivering against our mission is authentic. Because without that authenticity, you can't have that consistency.
Yeah.
That consistency won't be there. And then when you don't have that consistency, that's where trust and questions, come into question. And so at the end of the day, and then the last one is control. And that is a challenge because so you can maybe add a 4th C, which is the challenge there around the control piece. You can't always control your environment. I would feel like even today, it's less possible today than it ever was.
Sure.
But focusing on what you can control in helping deliver that consistent brand with clarity is really what we mean by the 3 C's.
And I'm imagining 3Cs as something really not just important to the work environment, but can be pervasive throughout your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Being consistent for people builds relationships, builds trust, builds your credibility.
Yeah. When I'm thinking about, you mentioned authenticity, that it's really hard to manufacture consistency.
It's true.
It's like if you tell a white lie and then you have to maintain that white lie every time you retell the story. It's like if who we are, if we don't have clarity around who we are and how we're showing up, then being consistent is impossible because there's not a framework there from
Absolutely.
which you kind of originate.
Agreed. And so holding yourself accountable to that, there's responsibility that goes with that. In showing up the way that you have said you want to show up as a leader. And so when you express that, there's there's the responsibility to deliver in a consistent way. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes we break from that consistency, but then it's an opportunity for us to own it. And that's a further trust builder once you do.
Yeah, that's right. Can you think of an example that has happened for you where you weren't able to show up in that way, and then it became, through your honesty, a way to build trust?
Yeah, I think for me, it's when I lose sight of really that mission, that purpose. And there have been times, I held myself accountable as chief marketing officer. I actually assumed two years into the role here at First Command a new title, chief experience officer, and that actually held a lot of responsibility with it because oftentimes when something is a break with the client experience, they're going to go to your website, they're going to look at the leadership team there, and they say, oh, look at this person's title. I'm going to reach out to that person and say, hey, I didn't have the experience that you all promised me I would have. And so, yes, I have had clients reach out to me and share with me where they did not experience that authentic coaching, that helped, where they felt like they were that valued client in helping pursue what was in their best interest. And so it was really my opportunity to take ownership for that and actually make it right. And so, like I said, giving that example that I just provided earlier, when we actually break that brand promise, either personally or professionally, it's taking ownership for that, and then making it right allows you to rebuild that trust and credibility.
Absolutely. Have you seen that, or how have you seen that to be true internally as well?
Yeah, I think internally it's doing what you say, walking the walk, as you say, and people will give you feedback if that's not the experience that you actually said you intended to show up as, and that happens. And as I said, some stress brings it out, overwork brings it out. Maybe things are going on in your personal life.
Yeah.
And I've had opportunities for people to come and say, hey, that was not what I was expecting. And in fact, one of my colleagues and I actually had a situation where, we actually had a conflict in front of a group. And then what I noticed is we have team norms that are very specific to how we intend to operate. And it's really like, how do we put our first team first? And that's each other. How do we support each other as an executive leadership team? And that was my opportunity to say, hey, this was not a team first action that I took. So I really want to own and apologize for that. And that just opened up that relationship even more. And now we have that double down commitment to each other to say, hey, let's make sure that if a situation like this arises again, we're going to show up authentically for each other. Doesn't mean we might not have frustration we need to express, but we're going to do that productively and support each other. And so that was definitely difficult, but it was also very rewarding.
Kellie, what an incredible thing to model for your team.
It's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy. And it's imperfect sometimes, but it is very rewarding. working through a challenge like that on a personal level is really rewarding, and it is an opportunity for growth.
Absolutely. Well, and for our team to see, we are fallible and it's in the recovery.
Yeah.
Don't expect to respond
Yeah.
perfectly. And how we respond with passion is just that, a sign of passion that I really care about this. I want to move our organization forward and I'm intense around it. And I also, if I push too hard, I'm going to make amends. I'm going to do that in a public way so that people can see us repair and be respectful. And what a model that sets from so many angles for your team.
Yeah. And, we talk about experience a lot here, and the only way to deliver the experience that what we say our end stakeholders may need, whether clients, our own people, our financial advisors who deliver that coaching experience to our clients,
Yeah.
is to make sure we're listening to and for their needs and feedback, and demonstrating that they have been heard and understood. And that's a huge first step in delivering the experience that they're expecting.
That's right. Do you all do an annual engagement survey, or how do you hear directly from your team?
Yeah, so we do. And what's great about it is it's truly what we call a 360, because we do regular client experience metrics. So with our clients, and we also hold our own internal teams accountable to the outcomes of those experience metrics. But then we look inward and we also do a regular client or employee engagement survey.
Nice.
And so that is something that we're very proud of, because we have very high engagement at First Command. And maybe that doesn't surprise you, because people are here for the mission and they feel that connection to purpose. So high engagement scores, we do that annually. And then we also do, and we just introduced this last year, and this is what I mean about the 360, is we do our financial advisor or our field experience survey. And we also want to understand the experience they're receiving from First Command and the value. Do they feel valued in the work that they do? And so we can actually look at the connection between the client experience, our employee experience, and our field experience. And then it gives us that opportunity to say, hey, we listened, we heard, here are some things that need attention. It isn't perfect today, but we're committing to you that we did hear you and listen to you. And here's what we're working on and working toward.
Nice.
When you do hold yourself to those surveys, you have to make sure that you're responding. You have to let people know that, hey, we didn't just get your feedback, check the box and move on.
Yeah.
You have to commit to delivering against what you heard, listened for, and understood.
That's right. Don't ask for feedback if you're not going to be responsible to it, and respond to it. Right?
Absolutely. And sharing openly, being very, very transparent with the results. There are areas that need attention. There are areas that need work. And that again builds trust in the experience, to know that you can show them the data. Yeah, but comparatively, we've got work to do in some of our ease of use, ease of adoption solutions. And this is an area we're committed to improving.
Yeah. We do engagement surveys, and I'll have leaders say, but what if they say XYZ, or what if they say this and there's not anything we can do about it, or they don't like the direction that we're headed. And even if we cannot change people's minds or address it, they're thinking about it. They're talking about it. So it's better for us to be able to work with it and address it than just for it to be sitting in the background, toxically doing whatever it's doing.
100%. Won't get the engagement next time if they don't see that, if they don't see results from it the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. What's something, because it sounds like you've worked hard on this process of getting 360 feedback from the full environment. What's something that's come from that surprised you?
Something that's come from that surprised me. I don't know if it's a surprise, but connecting to the need to feel both respected and valued, and how really that is manifest. So you might say respected. Well, what does that mean for our clients? Does it mean we talk to them by, addressing them a certain way, perhaps by their military title, or what is it? What we learned in our research is demonstrating respect and value is actually understanding and analyzing the data. And so that they feel completely understood, they feel secure, they feel that they are valued because, one, you know who they are, how long they've been with a client as a client or with our company, where they are on their path to security and where they need to go next.
Yeah.
And so respect and feeling valued really was kind of an eye opener for us on what it meant to our clients.
Yeah, that reminds me of part of our process in working with clients is making sure they feel seen. I think seen and respect really go hand in hand. And the first thing that we do is after we have a discovery call with a client is reflect back, sometimes using their language, sometimes using our language, what we heard and the impact of those statements. And I think when I receive that kind of thing from somebody, it settles my nervous system. And having a settled nervous system is really important to trust.
Agreed. Yeah, that might need to be my, I haven't made that connection personally, but I love what you have to say.
And it's just that little bit of time, and you're describing it as looking at the data, looking at the research that you have, so that you're holding up a mirror for this person, and that mirror is, to your point, respect is helping this person see that we are in this space with them, that even those few moments that we're spending together, I'm 100% focused on this space with you. And I think the message is you matter.
Agreed. It is. You matter, you're valued, and we empathize with your challenges, your needs, and your goals.
Yeah. Yeah. And to feel that in an environment as fraught with emotion as finances, right? This is like people I know who are realtors, man, they go through the ringer with their clients because it's the single biggest financial decision that most people ever make. And y'all are sitting in that same boat.
We're sitting in the same boat, and add to that the complexity and challenges that go with our clients' military lives, the uncertainty in many cases, the challenges and the opportunities they have in the roles that they achieve. But add to that can be very stressful. That's why we want to be the people there to help them through those challenges.
Absolutely. I just hear so much how meaningful your work is from the type of work that you do, but also the passion that you have for who you're serving.
Yeah, it's a easy to get up and come to work every day.
I bet it is. Is that something that you knew about yourself? Do you have military in your background, or is this a newfound experience?
Well, it's interesting. Yes. So both my grandfathers served, but my parents did not. And I had uncles who served, but it really was the opportunity to serve those who serve, whether or not family members have. But 3 out of 4 of our financial advisors actually have served. A lot of our people come from the military or were part of a military family. And so we have that sort of built-in empathy. And those of us who haven't directly served have an opportunity to do that.
It's awesome. And so important to continue to make sure that our service people feel valued.
Agreed. And right now, as we head into yet another government shutdown or partial government shutdown, being there for our clients is a real privilege.
That's awesome. Kellie, thank you so much for taking time to be with us on Inner Work. It's just clear the care that you bring to the environment. I know that has an impact on your team and on your clients and customers. And thank you in an indirect way for your service to our country.
Oh, thank you so much. It's my privilege and pleasure to talk with you today.
Yay. So I'm not going to let you off that easy, though, because we've got to finish one last thing.
Fun. Bring it on.
Okay. So one of the things that we like to do, and this will be a source of inspiration for many of our listeners, is hear from you a book a value and a practice that has been really influential for you? So a book maybe you're reading now or
Yes.
one that you recommend?
Yeah. And so what comes top of mind is the book I'm reading now.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm immersed in AI today, and how does AI enable our mission? How will AI impact our lives?
Yeah.
And I'm reading a book today called Culpability. It
Ooh.
really examines sort of real life scenarios of what happens with ethical decisions and the connection and responsibilities that go with AI. So I'm about halfway through. It's
Yeah.
super thought provoking, and it's really maybe the less academic side of AI and real life application of and thought provoking thoughts on AI. So I recommend it.
You're gonna have
It's
to check
been an
that one
interesting
out.
read. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so culpability. All right. So
Culpability.
there's Kelly's recommendation.
Yeah.
And then what's a value that you live
A
by?
value. I think continuous learning.
Mm,
For me, I come from parents who were both educators, and from a very early age, it's been instilled to me that you always are learning and never stop learning. You have so many opportunities to grow through
mhm.
learning, and I feel like oftentimes people achieve that sort of title, whether it's a C-level title or some executive level title, and you feel like you've reached the pinnacle, but really you're only just beginning that path to ongoing learning. And I feel like a responsibility and very much an interest to continue to learn and grow.
Thank you. That's awesome. And it may be related that a practice, so a habit that
Yeah.
keeps you doing this inner work and keeps you learning. What would that be?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm always interested in that ongoing education.
Mm.
Actually went back to, I've already got my graduate degree, but I went back for a professional certificate 2 years ago at Columbia Business School for chief marketing
Nice.
officers, because the business is always changing.
Yes.
And ongoing reading. I have subscriptions to industry publications. It's really important. I feel a responsibility to not only know what's happening in our industry, what's happening in life, and how do I continue to keep my skills fresh so that I can be valuable for my team.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for all that you do. We all, I think, benefit from continuous learning and from leaders like you who are committed to that practice.
Well, thank you, MaryAnn. It's been
Welcome.
really great to share those experiences and thoughts with you.
Yes. Thanks so much, Kelly. We'll talk again soon. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on Inner Work. We'll see you soon.